Yo, Black Americans, our ancestors are moving. There's a Confederate museum called Fort Branch. The Fort Branch Museum that had a tree fall on it. You look at what happened with freaking Nottoway with that fire, and now this. Do you know what our ancestors were called? The black descendants of American slaves? We were called root workers. We were known to make the earth move. We could speak things into existence. Do you really think this is a coincidence? Because I don't think it is a coincidence with a tree, which is, we are known to be root workers. We are known to work with the roots. We are known to make the roots obey us. Crushes a Confederate museum. That is our ancestors saying, oh, y'all want to start some mess, white supremacists with our freaking descendants? All right, bet. And now the official account for the historical Fort Branch is saying it is a total loss. White supremacy is taking L's left and right, baby. Shout out to the ancestors for making the earth move.
A Confederate museum full of hatred and foolishness has fallen. In Fort Branch, North Carolina, Confederate Earthworks Museum, baby, they took a tumble. They were building this museum of hate and racism and just grossness. And God said, not so fast. A tree knocked down the entire museum. It's a complete and total loss. They did not have insurance. They cannot pass go or collect $200. Okay? Look at God. I love that. I love that. You know, I really do. You can never win when you play dirty. But God is able. Like, share, comment below, follow the page.
To all people out there who believe in the supernatural, let me tell you what's happening in this country. Our ancestors are causing in Black America. Let me offer you some proof. All the major elements have been hit. The fire at Nottoway, that's fire. The white man who was found in Lake Lanier, that's water. The tree falling on the Confederate Museum, that's earth. The tornadoes that's been blowing down mostly non-black areas, that's wind. The lightning that just struck the police vehicle in Oklahoma, that's lightning. That's all the elements. I've had visions, and let me tell you, it's gonna get 10 times worse. Our ancestors are on a spiritual fucking rampage right now. I don't know if you've noticed, but you may want to turn on your TV. Because the next time it actually comes around, it's going to be 10 times worse. They are demanding we be treated correctly and given reparations for what we've been through.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's episode. I really appreciate your love and your support. If you're new here, my name is Vanessa. Kindly consider subscribing, and today we are going to talk about a real life event that sparkled powerful emotions online. A Confederate museum is destroyed by a falling tree. How can this happen? And how this natural accident felt like symbolic win for many Black Americans. If you want to know much about this and the history about this, kindly stick around, watch what people are talking about it, and a shout out to all original creators that we're going to see on our screens. Drop your opinions down below. I'll be back with more commentary. Welcome.
Stop with the phrase, we are not our ancestors. It's extremely disrespectful, and let me tell you why. Because we are our ancestors, okay? We are their legacy. And trust, they were way stronger than we are. They survived what would have crushed many of us. They carried grace while in chains, built legacies from nothing but dust, prayed us into existence. They walked so we could even think and dream about running. It's wild to me that you guys think that they were weak. Our ancestors did not turn the other cheek out of cowardness. They did it out of survival. All while they were oppressed, they made plans for freedom. They strategized. They built communities. So no, I will never say I am not my ancestors. Okay? I am proud to be theirs. They lead me. They protect me. They know my path and why I am here. Speak on your strength, but do not diminish theirs.
Please tell me y'all seen that Confederate museum that was destroyed by a tree. All that hatred they had up in that museum. I'm talking about Confederate flags and basically Confederate things everywhere. But guess what God did? God destroyed it with a big tree. I'm talking about a big tree. Destroyed the whole museum. It looked like God took his hand, put it on top of that building like this, and crushed it all up until it looked like a soda can crumbled up in somebody's hand. God not playing with y'all, bro. The Most High God of Israel is not playing with y'all no more. I don't know what y'all don't get. The Most High God is not playing with y'all. All that hate that y'all have to give, coming right back to y'all 10 times fold. I hope you know that.
Baby, God said, I ain't done yet, because just this week, a whole tree, a big one, done fell on the Fort Branch Confederate Museum down in North Carolina. And guess what? No insurance, no backup plan, no divine coverage, just wreckage. And while they out there crying and asking for donations, the rest of us looking up like, keep working, Lord. Because this is what happens when you build monuments on the backs of broken people. This is what happens when you preserve hate and call it heritage. This is what happens when you ignore the cries of justice and dare to put up a flag for oppression. God said it in the Word. You won't even have to fight. I'll fight for you. And baby, he's swinging heavy right now. Plantations, museums, gone with the wind and a holy vengeance. So if you still out here holding on to Confederate flags, lying to your children about Southern pride, just know God's outside and he brought the weather. Let this be a word to every system, every building, every bitter root still standing on stolen land. God is busy, and we are not in the way.
As a collective, Black people said we're resting. We're not joining this fight anymore. We chilling. And our ancestors said, don't worry, we got it. I'm loving this for us right now.
You know, I've just been made aware of another symbol of Southern pride getting destroyed. This happened last month, and I wasn't aware of it at all. I kind of ran across it on a Facebook page. And it says, breaking sad news, the museum building at the Fort Branch, North Carolina Confederate Earthworks was just destroyed by a falling tree, of all things. They show before and after pictures. The before is the interior. It's got some Confederate flags, got some cannon. I mean, a lot of the stuff in it looks pretty damn cool. It says, here's before and after pictures. Please see the following message and link with more photos. And it says, last month we were surprised to get a call informing us that a large tree had fallen on the museum. Unfortunately, it is a total loss. We intentionally delay letting everyone know so that the artifacts could be moved and secured at a new location to avoid any theft. Smart move. We have since learned that the insurance on the building is not enough to replace it with today's costs. Not surprising. We are devastated. We are looking at other possibilities of funding, including creating a GoFundMe account. Please consider donating to help Fort Branch replace our museum and help keep it available for future generations. Donations to our organization are tax deductible. You know, I'm kind of torn on this, right? On the one hand, I'm a big history buff, especially World War II and Civil War. And like I said, looking at the interior of the building, there's some stuff in there that I think's pretty cool. But at the same time, I understand what everything in this museum stood for. You know, at the end of the day, a lot of people in the South talk about Southern pride, and even they mention that this is part of their heritage. I get that. It ain't part of mine. Everything in there stands for things that stood against people like me. You know, in honesty, the Confederacy and everybody that supported it, they were traitors. They committed treason against their own country. That's real. And it's been romanticized, right? The war against northern aggression. They said they were fighting for states' rights. They were fighting for the right to do things that they wanted to do, which one of them being enslaving people. So I don't have any sympathy for what that museum stood for, although I find some of the artifacts that it had in it interesting. And I think that the history of the Confederacy needs to be told, should not be forgotten, because it impacted people like me. It impacted everybody in the country at the time, and it still impacts people like me and other people in the country. Believe it or not, you may not believe it, but it is still impacting us.
Alright, welcome back. Recently, a tree fell and destroyed a Confederate museum in southern part of the USA, and no one was hurt, but the building was heavily damaged. So this incident, as we have seen in the videos, has sparked various reactions on social media, especially Black Americans celebrating. Why? This is an expected part. Instead of mourning the loss, most Black Americans celebrated the event online. Why this? Let's break it down. Before, let me share a short history about this building. Confederate museums are buildings dedicated to preserving the memory of the Confederate States of America, a group of southern states that broke away from the US in the 1860s to defend slavery. They lost the Civil War, but many places in the southern kept their flags, monuments, and museums as a part of what they called heritage. However, too many African Americans, these symbols don't represent heritage. They represent oppression, racism, and pain. So when a tree from nature itself destroys one of these buildings, it feels like poetic, almost spiritual. So this particular museum was built over a century ago, often with money from groups like the United Daughters of the Confederacy. They helped spread a story that made the South look noble and misunderstood, but completely left out the voices of enslaved people. Inside these museums, you would find uniforms, weapons, and even personal letters from Confederate soldiers, but rarely anything about the cruelty of slavery or the struggle of Black Americans. So when news broke about the fallen tree, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram lit up because Black users posted things like, "These are our ancestors fighting for us. Even natures can talk. Even natures can move." Imagine even nature said, "Not today, racist." That's ancestral justice. I don't know what you think about this. Guys, tell me in the comment section, because it wasn't about celebrating destruction. It was about feeling heard, seen, and vindicated. Because for centuries, their history was like silenced, rewritten, or ignored. So this moment felt like a sign that the tide is turning, literally and symbolically. This is not just about one building. It's about whose stories we preserve and whose pain we ignored. And people are now asking, like, why do we still have these museums? And why do we honor the Confederacy when it stood for slavery? And something important is this: how can we build museums tell the full truth, not just the version some people want to remember? So imagine one tree sparkled more than damage. It sparkled a conversation. And nowadays, history is not just about the past. It's about what we choose to remember today. I don't know why Caucasian people are always like, Black people are always talking about the past. You should move on and forget the past. But there is a reason to remember. We don't have to forget about the past. We have to remember and keep talking about this to avoid the repetition. Of course, we don't want those taking place in the present or the future. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Confederation museums should still exist, Or is it time to move on and rebuild something better? Thank you so much for watching till the end. I really appreciate your love and your support. If you haven't yet subscribed, what are you waiting for? Kindly subscribe, because we are not done telling the stories that matter and what is happening in this world of Black Americans and all over the world. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.